Welcome. This podcast is a series of candid conversations exploring the human experience from a completely new perspective. In it, we will be diving deeply into the meaning of commonly used words and pointing you away from that old stressful way of looking at life and towards a new paradigm. This will help you find a sense of calm, cultivate meaningful relationships, and create harmony in every aspect of your life. Here is Navigating Life with Ease with Michaela, Ellis and Clare Downham.
Hey, Clare.
Hello. I never know how to time that. Maybe we should agree beforehand who's going to say hello first. Hi, Michaela. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I've had a nap
Good.
this afternoon. That always helps.
Lovely, lovely. Good. Well, I have a word for you.
Marvelous.
Monotony.
Oh, monotony. That's a really, it's not a word I've ever contemplated, really. And maybe that's because I don't think my life has ever had any of it. You know, the kind of just the same thing kind of over and over again. Even when I was in a proper job, it was never monotonous. But I guess thinking about it from a kind of inside out perspective, I guess something's only monotonous if you think it is. You know, like for some people, being in a routine and doing the same kind of things every day is absolutely heaven, isn't it? Because they like it. People do like routine. I'd say my dad, bless him, he was definitely somebody who liked familiarity and routine and sameness, and I would have probably looked at his life and said, "Oh, that's a bit monotonous. It's kind of just it's just a bit samey and a bit like." He didn't often step outside his comfort zone, I suppose, as you might call it. Yeah, his life was pretty much the same every day, I think. Like Groundhog Day. And I guess I would say my life is probably more it's less busy than it used to be. So I guess it's less frenetic than it used to be. It used to be insanely busy and non-stop, especially when my kids were younger and they were doing all the activities that at one point they were doing, like scouts, guides, judo, musical theatre, dancing, swimming, football, you know, like there was not a night of the week that we actually didn't have something going on, and I would have probably craved a bit of monotony at that point and a bit of just like doing little or less, doing a lot less. I remember, I don't know if you've come across Mel Robbins. She wrote the 5-second rule. I remember, I think it's in that book, she talks about almost craving the ability, craving an illness that put her in hospital because her life was so crazy that she actually just wanted to have some monotony, I suppose, for actually just to have nothing, to be doing nothing, to be just sitting in a hospital bed doing nothing every day. And she was so stressed that I can't remember if it's her or one of her clients, but the story is that this person was so stressed that they actually thought the only way they could escape this craziness was to be ill enough to be in hospital. Not like seriously like deathbed ill, but ill enough to put themselves in hospital, like to have a minor car crash or break a limb or something like that. Like they were actually considering that as a move, that the only way they could escape the craziness of their life was to have some kind of serious illness and be in hospital. So I guess there's got to be something that's in between the two, hasn't there? Like that's a bit more, I guess the word balance is probably what we would use these days. But I have to say, I don't know if, I wonder if it's human nature to want those kind of ups and downs and excitement and change and challenge, I think, as well. Like with monotony, there's not any challenges, so there's not any growth because you're just kind of doing the same thing every day. That brings to mind a study I heard about where they took, I think they were amoebas or some kind of, lower level life form, if you want to call it that. And they put them in two different glass, tanks. I was going to say cages, not a cage made out of glass. And one of the groups, they gave them everything they needed. So their life was monotonous in a kind of nice way. They just gave them everything. They gave them all the food. They had a ridiculously plentiful. They didn't really have. They could just sit there and the food was just turning up. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to try and find food. They had a monotonous life of just a continual supply of food and everything they needed. And then the other tank, they made food scarce. They kind of hid the food. They made it harder for them. They created an environment that was not what you might call supportive for the creatures. And actually, the ones in the less supportive environments thrived more.
Hmm.
And I think it's really easy when we're being, as human beings, if we're being ruled by our feelings, to stay safe, to stay in a little space, because if we're in an outside in misunderstanding, we're going to think that the things out there are scary and can make us feel terrible or make us feel bad. So we won't then do those things, and then life probably can become pretty monotonous, but probably feel safe as well. So yeah, that was an unexpected word that I've kind of muddled through because it's not a word I ever really even use at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna fling it back at you now. See what you've got to say, because I think that will be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you think of the word, first of all? Why that
Well,
word?
I don't. I haven't. Well, something happened a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know that I never used the word monotony. I don't think to describe what was going on. However, kind of tracks. So, Rob and I, we were and Elizabeth, right? We're having dinner. We weren't having it at the table, and Elizabeth we're having it in the living room. There's a show that we like to watch. Anyway, it wasn't even on, but it was like not traditional, although quite common for us, where we're all like just, we just at the end of our day, it's just like we all like kind of almost spread out together. So it's very relaxed and whatever. So asked Elizabeth if she and it could have been Survivor Night. That actually could have been it. I'm not sure, because that is the one show that Rob and I, that we watched that together. Right. So there's not many, maybe there's one other show that we might watch together, and Elizabeth made a comment about just, I can't remember what it was. And it wasn't, it wasn't harsh or anything, but it pointed out how we weren't really doing anything. Like our evenings are typically pretty low key. We don't really do, I'm going for a walk with a girlfriend tonight. It's pretty mild, but it's not so it's pretty. And what I saw was how I had gotten into this rhythm or routine or whatever, that truly by the end of the evening, I wasn't, sometimes it was what I absolutely needed, like to just maybe watch a show, maybe just, hang out, not really do anything. But often it's like, I would feel like, wow, that was another night watching a show, maybe two, and then heading off to bed. And when I don't know about you, Claire, like when Rob goes to bed, he goes to bed. When I go to bed, I do a load of this or not, a laundry maybe, and I do a little bit of this and I do a little bit of that, and it was just I clean up along the way. So it might be another hour and a half or so before I actually go to bed. But I just saw it through Elizabeth's eyes. And I thought about mom and dad. I grew up on a farm, and mom and dad worked very hard. It was very physical. They and depending on the season, dad was always up really early and, sometimes into the evening. But the evenings when they could be, that's what they were. They were, all of us hanging around by in the living room watching a show. And I just started to see this. So it's been playing on my mind. And when I listened to you, the words that actually came up were aliveness and certainty. And what I saw is like, oh, right, yeah, like as human beings, we want something to be kind of certain. It's familiar and we can count on it and it's there and we can do it. And we might just sort of kind of get into this rhythm and do that. And then on the other hand, it's just like, ho hum, and there is that the other side of it is just like, we want to feel alive, like we want something different. And I think, and I think the first time I heard about this, the certainties, or the number of things that we need as a human being, certainty and variety and, connection, belonging, growth, those kinds of things. I think I heard them from Tony Robbins. I can't remember them all, but it's like, you know what? I think that's true. And I think we all get it in different ways, that we might kind of get into a little bit of a pattern or a routine or a monotonous kind of thing. But there are ways that we might change things to make them different that maybe no one else can see, but we feel it. So someone else might look in, like looking in at your dad's life and seeing how it, to you, it may have looked, and if you live that way, it may have felt a certain way, monotonous, if we're using that word. But maybe to your dad, maybe there was things that he did to change things up. I think we do that. I think maybe we don't always recognize that it's just like, oh, I'm just going to do this. And it's some little thing that only feels different to you. Yeah, this is so curious. FYI, I relate to that sense of it's okay for anything to happen just to break me out of this monotony. I haven't felt that for a really long time, like year. I'm thinking back to when I was a 20-something-year-old doing this job, walking to work and just feeling like, same job, same pay, same rhythm, same route to work, same, and it's just like, yeah, a sickness or some kind of tragedy would have been okay to break the monotony and sort of like yank me out of that rhythm. But yeah, when you have an understanding of how much agency we really have over our experience of life, that it's so simple and so easily accessible to change it in a moment with a thought, with a redirection of our attention, with a choice or a decision to like do something. And I've been like over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of been watching what my go-to is and introducing like new things and noticing how difficult at times, it was to follow through on the different thing, because there's this like a rubber band of habit sort of wanting to pull me back into what I've been doing. But it's just like, yeah, that's not so satisfying anymore. So it's not necessarily related to my evenings, but it was what she pointed to. It had me look at everywhere in my life. What am I doing? What am I doing that's the same thing? That is not satisfying. And where am I getting the satisfaction? And it is on doing some different things. It is on in, but not making a point of, okay, today I got to do something different. It's not necessarily like that. It's like when I started to notice, it's like, oh, in some cases, this actually naturally happens, where today I feel like doing this, and the next day I might feel like, yeah, whether that job was totally done or not, it's just like, yeah, I'm not there anymore. I'm on to something different. I see that when we really, it's like, well, what, oh my gosh, it's like what it always comes back to, slowing down a bit and just being present. It's like the routine or the habit has not got the same pull. The elastic band isn't as taut, isn't as strong. It's like presence and slowing down sort of, it's like it's relax the band or something, and there's choice. I can go somewhere else, and it's easier to do that. I didn't actually see that until talking about it, because I hadn't, even though I'd been sort of playing around with this, even the word just came up this morning. It wasn't a planned word like that. Yeah.
I mean, what's coming to mind is like, does it matter? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I did. I made a podcast once on my own podcast that was about something. I think the title was something like "My Life is Really Boring" or something like that. And it was pointing to how when I was at that really busy phase of my life, when I was, literally needed to be two people, it was a miracle. I look back at it and think, how did I do all of that? How did I get this child to here and that child to there, like at the same time? It was just ludicrous some evenings and some weekends. And, that felt like I needed to be doing all that stuff to be okay. And now I would say, like you're saying, my evenings are mostly, when I finish this call, I've actually got a client call after this, but once I get into the evening, it is chilling out on the sofa and watching my favourite British soap opera, which is, of course, Emmerdale, because that's the one my child is in. It's like, it's just like, it's just, it's chilling out and watching a bit of telly. Sometimes we play cards, and occasionally I've just started to do a bit of improv. So I'll go to an improv class. There maybe a couple of times a month. But I also like go, well, it's okay. I'm okay. I don't have to change it until it makes sense to change it, until it makes sense to, like, haven't we been encouraged that life is supposed to be full of stuff, and maybe it doesn't have to be until you fancy doing something different. And that can kind of unfold moment by moment, really, rather than, because every so often I go, oh, is this okay? Just, us, what we're doing and how we're living life. But then I just go, yeah, it's actually, my days are very varied. There's different conversations and meetings and courses and all the other things that I do during the day. So that's really, really variable. And evenings are usually quieter and okay. Like, I guess for me, because my sleep, I'm a morning person, I would say, as a rule. I'm kind of better in the mornings and not so good in the evenings. I tend to get quite tired because I've woken up early usually. So I guess my evenings are just my kind of, chill out time, really.
Mm.
I guess we do different things when we're away in the motorhome. We tend to vary things more, probably because we're in different locations and we want to see the place, or, we'll do something different when we're there. I guess for me, it's almost like seeing it's all just perfect, and then we'll change something, and that all of it's okay. There's nothing wrong with any of it, is there? It's like, and like you said, looking from the outside into my dad's life and saying, God, he just potters around the garden all day and really do anything. But he was all right with that, and like you say, he may be changing it up in such a small way that nobody outside of him would even realize that was going on. So yeah, I don't want people to hear this and think, I've got to change my life up, or I've got to change something,
No.
rather than seeing that their life is just fine as it is, really. And then at some point they might want to change it in some way, shape,
Yeah.
when it makes sense. Because I think we can get into really like a place of regret or a place of dissatisfaction. I think if we're kind of looking at our life and going, oh, it's not enough, my life, it's not, it needs to be better or different or have more things in it, or I've got to vary it more, or whereas when we just go, well, we're all doing what makes sense to us in the moment, and then something else makes sense and we change, but we can do without all the guilt or the regret of what we did before hanging over us, really. Because when we decide, like, you've had an insight there and you've just started to look at things a bit differently, and that's cool, because you can move then into a different space with a kind of, oh yeah, I just see this a bit differently now, so I'm ready to kind of tweak something, as opposed to what can happen is that kind of, oh God, my life's just not enough, or that's not, I don't think that's helpful for people. I think it's cool to just see that when you have an insight, when something just looks different, then something changes. And that's a really natural process, I think.
Yeah. Or, another thing too, that we don't want to look at other people's lives, do a comparison. It's like, oh, we need to do something. Really, it's really just about noticing and asking. It's like, are you good with this? Because even with all of that, I'm not changing a whole bunch. But there are some things that it's just made me more aware. We still will hang out on the couch, and watch a show or two or more, depending on the night, So it's not that anything has changed, but asking the question, like, it's like, am I happy with this? Yeah, this feels good right now. I'm good with this, and carry on. Or it's like, oh, is there something to change? And it's like, well, actually, I do feel like I want to get out more. And that has been. So it's like, but I don't want to go every week. I enjoy being home. I enjoy my time alone. I enjoy that. So yeah, it's really just it's always an invitation to just see what feels good for you right now. What, has you feeling alive? Because I can feel very comfortably alive on the couch. And I can be very, last Friday, Rob and we went drumming together, and that was new. We've never done that together before, right? It was his first time. And so it was like good, and we're going to go again this Friday, but we're not going to go every Friday. It just feels good to, let's go again, and there'll be other things that we might be, guided to do or not. And in between all of those, also have lots of just downtime and hanging around home. Yeah.
It's something that can just unfold day by day, moment by moment, isn't it?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the only way.
the improv class that I'm doing is just He does it a couple of times a month, kind of random days usually. He just does a poll in a WhatsApp group, and then that's when the night is that it's happening. So that can be, sometimes I can make it, sometimes I can't. So I might get to one a month. It's just, so yeah, it's something a little bit different.
Fun. Yeah. Curious. Thanks, Claire.
That was cool. Different word. I feel like I've got to come up with a really good one for next time now. I've got word envy. So until next time.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Lots of love.
Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for being a part of Navigating Life with Ease. We'd love to hear your feedback and receive a review on your favorite podcast platform. This will help others who'd also like more ease in their life to find us. We're here to support you, so if you've any words you'd like us to explore or you've a question, please reach out to us at navigatinglifewithease@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of Navigating Life with Ease.